All right, welcome to the Short Vol Show Live. My name is David, and I'm coming to you from Cape Cod, Massachusetts today. And the big thing, obviously, on everyone's mind is what? Tell me. Well, you know, it's the Fed. The Fed came out yesterday with a meeting and decided, once again, not to raise rates again. And the market sort of has been unreacting to that. It was off a little bit today, then it was up a teeny bit. And you know how I feel about the Fed. The last time that the Fed came on and did not raise rates, you know, got some criticism, but a lot more support than in December. Now, December, the Fed raised rates and came out with a strong, positive message. The markets tanked, and he was completely criticized. And I thought that was kind of a bit ridiculous. Of course, the president came out against him, and Donald Trump is not the only president in history that has come out against the Fed in a strong way. And in fact, there have been several examples, but farther back in time. In recent time, Obama really did not mess with the Fed. And so people don't remember a president coming out against the Fed. But it's not something that's unique to Donald Trump. But from my point of view, the Fed, and I'm not saying this because I lean towards the left, but the Fed should be independent from the president. That's the whole point, is that you find somebody who's qualified for the job, and then they're an independent voice that doesn't have other pressures. The president has lots of people pulling at him. Most, obviously, his base and whatnot. And therefore, he's going to want to do, basically, he wants to do short-term stuff. And that's what the market wants too. It's kind of ridiculous. And I've used the analogy of like a dinner. The market wants dessert before they've had their dinner, and there's no adult in the room. They think it's a success, whatever the Fed does, if the market rallies that day. And that's all they're thinking of is like, okay, I'm long Apple. If the Fed says something and Apple goes up, then I'm happy. But that's not the Fed's job. And actually, changing interest rates has an effect that often isn't felt for 6 months down the road. The Fed needs to be the adult in the room. And I really believe that we squandered a good opportunity to actually normalize rates by stopping raising rates when we did. Now, granted, the market had gone down a little bit before the December rate raise, and at that moment it seemed kind of strange that we were like, it seemed like the market was selling off and we're tightening. Usually tightening of rates is supposed to be to settle down an overheated economy, and although the market was going down then, the economy was strong, but everybody got on this bend in December that, like, well, the market's a little long in the teeth. All these articles came out saying, you know, we're going to go into a recession, this and that. Even though the economic data didn't prove that, everybody was looking to the downside, and we did sell off, obviously, in December, and we saw the VIX spike to, I think it spiked to maybe 30s. I know UVXY spiked back to 50, and we had this sell-off, but we came completely back from it. And we've flirted with the highs from there. And so I think the Fed should not have sort of choked 2 times ago at the meeting and kind of gone to this loosening type stance. I think that they should have tried to project that we're going to have another rate hike this year, but that apparently now is not going to happen. I like the fact now that the Fed is stating their opinion that the economy seems a little weaker, and not just doing the Donald Trump line that everything's great, and you know, that whole line of whatever we can say that will make the market rally today. That's unsustainable in the long term. The Fed needs to be an economist who's taking a real pulse of the market and what he sees, and but also needs to project strength. So we'll see where we go from there. We're still not very far off the highs in the SPX. And somebody put a tweet out yesterday saying, well, no matter what the Fed was going to do, we were going to rally. I think that's true to a certain extent. But, you know, I'm a person that I don't feel comfortable with the U.S. being so much in debt and just having more and more deficits every year. I don't feel comfortable with that. It makes me think of like the Roman Empire slowly collapsing, and you know how every empire slowly collapses. Well, us being in debt seems to be a big part of that. So that's my rant on the Fed for right now. let's move on to another topic that I was thinking about. I reached out to Corey Coleman, who runs the website Double Toasted, for some help with my background. And so I just want to thank him for responding to me and his support. Check out Double Toasted. It's a review website for films. I used to be into What the Flick, which is a show that was run by the Young Turks Network, and I'm very angry with them for canceling that show. I guess they've like gone to only politics now. But check out Corey Coleman and Double Toasted. Excellent spot. In the news today, as far as the stock market, we had MU, positive earnings, up about $4, and then we have the stock Fun. Now, I'll leave a link in the description below, but the CEO of Fun came on a YouTube video recently, and his name is Alan Nitowski. And check out this video and link in the description because it's pretty interesting. You know, I always wonder, how do you become a CEO? These guys that make 100, 500 times more than us normal people do. And he gives you a good glimpse into that in this video where he talks about Funware. Now, Funware, if you don't know about it, is a stock that they make applications for a mobile phone. But in January of this year, I think it's January of this year, let me just check my notes here. Yeah, January 9th of this year, the stock traded $500, and it has a very low float. So it spikes to $500, then by a week later, it's back down to $75, then back up to $300, back down to $32, back up to $66, and this week, stock traded $26, and then yesterday it was like up $8. So, you know, I'm like, oh man, I should have jumped in, you know. It's a risky kind of issue, and it's the kind of thing where I know even if it gets to $10, if I jump in and buy some, it's going straight down from there, of course. But check out Funware, and check out this video because this guy talks about what it's like to be a CEO and start a company. It's very interesting because he talks about exiting, and what he means by that is starting a private company, building it up to a certain point, and then selling out. So he finds a bunch of rich buddies. They all put money in a company, they build it up, and they sell it to somebody. And this guy, at this point, after having done that like 3 times, has a list of like 500 rich people. And it always fascinates me, these rich people. I think of like Betsy DeVos, who's the education secretary now, or like Rupert Murdoch, or some of these other rich people and how they invest in stuff. And this guy talks a little bit about it, like calling these people up and being like, oh, I've got another one. And these guys are like, okay, we'll give you $2 million for this or that. That would be an interesting world to get into at some point in life, to actually be one of those people. I'm just going to pause for a sec so you can see if we're going okay. Alright, welcome back to the Short Vol Show Live. And you know what I like to do? I like to check out my Patreon site, and you should too. Support local independent media by giving $1 or $5 to my Patreon site. I tell you, I need it now more than ever because I'm working on developing this website and mobile app, and hiring these computer guys costs a fortune. I was looking on one of these, it's not Fiverr, but it's like a more expensive Fiverr, and there's one called Freelancer. There's a couple of ones, but one of them was like, it was called like Top Val or something, and it was a minimum $5,000 for a project. And I'm like, maybe that's the wrong one for me. But some of these guys charge like $150 an hour to develop a website. And so, you know, if you could give $5 on Patreon, that would at least signal to me that you're interested in me and making this investment. It's not, I don't think I'm going to be able to raise the money only by Patreon. I'm looking for other sponsorship and whatnot, and to dig into my own pocket. But if you could help out, that would be awesome. Check out Patreon, link in the description, and thank you. So, I don't know if you saw this new in television. I just want to talk about a couple things. I'm certainly not a television reviewer, but I like to watch TV, and I bet you probably do too. This new Alec Gibney documentary, Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. It's a profile of Elizabeth Holmes and the situation with Theranos. Just came out this week, and I mean, she really is a narcissist and sort of an antisocial personality. I mean, she just lies through her teeth, and I understand why she's doing it because she has this dream to make this company and everything, but I mean, she's totally full of it and just lied to all these people, and I mean, she makes these people look like fools. Schultz, Bill Clinton, all these people on the board. This Anna Ariola and this Ari guy from Apple. She took them all for a big ride. And this other guy, Sammy, with her did the same thing. So check that out. I don't like her. I don't like the fact that I think she probably should be in jail. I don't like the fact that, you know, you steal, you know, $10 in a supermarket and you go to jail. You steal, you know, millions and millions from all these people and nothing happens to you. And you're like, oh, I'm on to my next idea. I didn't do anything wrong. She did a lot wrong. She never had this technology. She swindled all these people, and I'm glad the documentary came out. And let's not just apologize for these people. Just because she's a woman doesn't mean she shouldn't be held accountable for what she did. Other great on Netflix was this Love, Death, and Robots, which is a comic anthology. It has, I believe, 18 different comics. And this is one of the ones that Double Toast reviewed that I was watching with Corey Coleman, who I just talked about in the other segment. And really interesting Netflix anthology. Check it out. I love this one. It's called Beyond the Aquila Drift. It's these guys in outer space. If you're a Star Citizen fan, it looks like they're on a Hull C with this big ship where they try to slingshot it across space. And it's a whole... it's the idea of we don't really know what our reality is. There's a bunch of interesting ones. Now, these have been criticized for being misogynistic and whatnot, but there's definitely some gems out of those 18. So check it out on Netflix. Once again, it's called Love, Death, and Robots. And just to update you on my actual positions right now, ACB, I am long ACB, that being one of the MJ stocks. I was a big fan of Afria for a long time, as you know if you follow me, but Afria, of course, these guys, these short sellers came in and had these stories about how it's a total fraud, and ever since then I don't really feel comfortable with that one. Some of these other ones, CGC and Tilray, their valuations are so much higher than this ACB, Aurora. Aurora is one of the big three in Canada. I consider the big three to be Canopy Growth, Aurora, and Afria. And of those big three, ACB has a much lower valuation than the rest. And all we need is some big suitor to come in, and this thing is going to explode to the upside. Right now, it's been on a run. It got up to about 10.50 last week. And maybe look for a little bit of a pullback before you get involved with it. But I bought some around the $8 range, and I think it's got a lot more upside than downside. I think it could go down to like $6, but I think it has a ton of upside. Now, take that with a grain of salt because I know I'm not the best stock picker out there. So let's get down to the meat of things, which is, of course, the VIX and the VIX term structure. We entered the day at about 4% contango. Now, expiration was on Wednesday. Right before expiration, contango was getting up to about 15%. So, contango is going to tell you about how much the ETPs are going to decay, all things being equal, over a month period. So if you've got 10% decay and UVXY is trading 40, then all things being equal, it's going to be down $10 below that in a month, so 30. So the VIX now is in a low spot. We're flirting with 12.5, 13, and I know that's historically very low, but we could definitely stay in this range for a while. As Mark Sebastian kind of talks about different ranges or different VIX ranges like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It seems like we're going to settle back into that one range where basically nothing's happening and we're in contango and this thing's just leaking lower. Now, I certainly understand if you don't want to initiate a short here because we are in the lower range of the VIX. But if we just have a normal summer, this thing is just going to, these ETPs are just going to drift lower. So I am short UVXY right now. I would consider on a pop, if we can get a pop. We got a pop last week. If we get another pop, I would consider getting short VXXB or getting short UVXY. I do it via put spreads because I'm afraid to be short naked calls, and I don't want to deal with buy-in risk or hard to borrow risk with shorting these stocks. It can be hard to short UVXY unless you have portfolio margin account, which requires you to have at least 100 grand in your account, which I know a lot of you don't do. So I am short UVXY right now, and I do think it will continue to go lower. Thanks to all you out there for helping me with my looking for a name for my website. I got about as many answers as there are people, of course, which I figured, but the winner for the poll was Vic's Crush. And so I will consider that. It's hard because a lot of people tell you to use your real name for a YouTube channel, and that's what I have right now. But I really want to be the Vic's guy on YouTube, the go-to guy for the Vic. So I want people, if they type Vic's in, for me to pop up first. And the best way to do that is to get Vic's in the name somehow. So I am going to be changing the name at some point soon. I appreciate all of your input, and you guys have been really hilarious and great with that. So thank you very much for that. Just 1 sec before you go. So I'm setting up this website, and I could really use your support on Patreon. I have a ton of stuff in the works, and I'm investing a ton of my money into it, but I would love to have some backers. And just to show me that you're into it, check out the link in the description, and please consider maybe $1 or even $5 a month would really help me out. Thanks a lot.